All right, we've been studying Second Chronicles, which is a little different story than the First and Second Kings and the parts of Samuel. It'll focus on a few different things because it's written really to a different audience. Whereas the kings and the prophets of that time were really kind of putting down a record. Chronicles is written to those who are in captivity, and we'll see that especially as we get to the end of Second Chronicles. But it's really written to them to remind them of what happened. Because let's face it, 70 years is a long time, isn't it? It's easy to forget. That's a couple of generations coming along who grew up in captivity. They weren't there when all of these things happened. They have probably really no idea other than that God was mad at them, right? So the question is, what went wrong in Judah? And that's what this Second Chronicles has been all about. From Saul to David to Solomon to Rehoboam and on down, it has been a list of, okay, where's their what? Heart. Was their heart right with God? Were they like David, who was a man after God's own heart, or more like Rehoboam, whose heart was not right with God? And we just down through the time. Now, how bad could it get? We saw last week it got what? Bad. Right? I mean, it went from bad to what? Bad, right? On the bad-o-meter. And it's like, this has got terrible. In fact, how bad did it get? Let's go to 2 Chronicles chapter 22. Second Chronicles chapter 22. And this is the period we're in where he had King Jehoram, a son of Jehoshaphat. Jehoshaphat was a good king. Unfortunately, his son decided, you know what? I like Israel. You know, those guys aren't so bad. That Ahab guy, now a little bit that's Jehoshaphat's fault. Because Jehoshaphat started getting into business with him, started getting into relations and going to war with them, which she wasn't supposed to be doing. But that kind of led them to say, okay, well, maybe Jehoram here should marry Ahab's daughter. Who's that? Well, Annandale over here. And that was what's called a what? Bad idea. That's not what they're supposed to do. How bad can it get? Well, let's look at chapter 22, verses 1 through 4. And the inhabitants of Jerusalem made Ahaziah, the youngest son, king in his stead. So after Jehoram died, they made Ahaziah king, for the band of men that came with the Arabians to the camp had slain all the eldest. So Ahaziah, the son of Jehoram, king of Judah, reigned. Why did Ahaziah even get the job? Because Jehoram, during his reign, was doing so bad that God allowed these people to come from outside and come and slay all the princes, except for the youngest, which comes into play in a minute too. Verse 2. 42 years old was Ahaziah when he began to reign. He reigned 1 year in Jerusalem. His mother's name also was Athaliah, the daughter of Omri. He also walked in the ways of the house of Ahab, for his mother was his counselor to do wickedly. Wherefore he did evil in the sight of the Lord like the house of Ahab, for they were his counselors after the death of his father to his destruction. He followed after them because that's who he was listening to. That's who his counselors were. Just like Ahab was led into all kinds of idolatry, so was Ahaziah. And it doesn't help that your mom's sitting there saying, what? Yeah, let's do this. We need to bring Judah into the same thing. And how bad did he get? Well, verse 10 of chapter 22. But when Athaliah, the mother of Ahaziah, saw that her son was dead, she arose and destroyed all the seed of the royal house of Judah. So God allowed Jehoram's sons, except for one, to be carried away. When Ahaziah died, Athaliah killed all the family. All of Ahaziah's sons, she thought. She thought. But just like Ahaziah was left, the youngest was left, also the youngest of Ahaziah was left, a guy by the name of Joash, right? So did God take care of things? Mm-hmm. Verses 11 and 12. But Jehoshabeath, the daughter of the king, took Joash, the son of Ahaziah, and stole him from among the king's sons that were slain, and put him and his nurse in a bedchamber. So Jehoshabeath, the daughter of King Jehoram, the wife of Jehoiada the priest, for she was the sister of Ahaziah, hid him from Athaliah so that she slew him not. So, Is God still doing it? Think about that for a minute. Remember, what was God's promise to David? You will sit upon the throne, right? Your legacy will sit upon the throne. Adaliah tried to cut that off. But would God allow that? But God would not allow that. So he put in the heart to save that one son, to make sure he could keep his promise, and he did. And how did Joash do? And this is the question we're going to have tonight. We're going to see Joash, Amaziah, and Uzziah. It all sounds so familiar. What's even worse is at this time you also have the kings of Israel who all have the same names as the kings of Judah, and it gets really confusing. So fortunately, we're just doing Judah. But Joash is now king. Is he going to learn the lesson? Learn the lesson that Jehoshaphat should have learned, which is don't start doing dealings with them. Will he learn from his grandfather? Will he learn from his father? Will he learn from them and not make the same mistakes? Well, we'll see how it starts. Let's all go to chapter 24, verses 1 and 2. Joash was 7 years old when he began to reign. Is that young? We have some kids here at church who are 7 years old. Would you want him running the country? Any of them? Nope. Would you want Matthias running the country? 7 years old when he began to reign. He reigned 40 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name also was Zibiah of Beersheba, and Joash did which was right in the sight of the Lord all the days of Jehoiada the priest. Remember, it was Jehoiada and his wife who hid him away. Jehoiada is the one in chapter 23 that brought all the priests together and made sure Adaliah could not get to Joash, who got him crowned king, and then made sure Adaliah was killed, along with all her co-conspirators. All right, so Jehoiada is there, and he's going to make sure he does right. And does he? Yes. Joash, chapter 24, verse 4. And it came to pass after this that Joash was minded to repair the house of the Lord. Why did the temple need to be repaired? These guys. Adaliah and Amaziah and Jehoram, just slowly but surely, either God allowed people because of their sin to come in and take stuff away, or they actually started taking stuff away to use to worship their own gods, desecrating them and letting it go into disrepair. So it came in Joash's mind, we need to repair the temple. And does he? Verse 5. And he gathered together the priests and the Levites and said to them, go out unto the cities of Judah and gather of all Israel money to repair the house of your God from year to year, and see that you hasten the matter. Howbeit the Levites hastened it not. They didn't do their job. Say, go. They go, do we really want to tax people? We want to give money. It seems like a lot of work. The Levites here do not come off too good right now. They're not really, but you have to remember, what have they been doing? They've been living under this. Right? Where nobody cares about God. Nobody wants to hear about God. It's like, we'll get to it. They didn't get fast enough. Verse 6. The king called for Jehoiada the chief and said to them, why hast thou not required of the Levites to bring in out of Judah and out of Jerusalem the collection, according to the commandment of Moses, the servant of the Lord, and of the congregation of Israel, for the tabernacle of witness? For the sons of Adaliah, that wicked woman, had broken up the house of God, and also all the dedicated things of the house of the Lord did they bestow upon Balaam. Like, it's a disaster. We can't do the sacrifices. We can't do the showbread. We can't do the incense for prayer. We can't do any of that stuff. And I told you to do it, and you're not doing it. But Jehoiada, the man who gets things done. How many like those kind of guys? Verse 8. And at the king's commandment, they made a chest and set it without on the gate of the house of the Lord. So they put a big box out front and said, put money in for repair of the temple. And they made a proclamation through Judah and Jerusalem to bring into the Lord the collection that Moses, the servant of God, laid upon Israel in the wilderness. And all the princes and all the people rejoiced and brought in and cast in the chest until they had made an end. In other words, until it was full. They just put it out there and said, hey, go. Again, Levites were told to go out and collect the money. And like a child, right? So it was like, well, we'll just put the box there and have them bring the stuff. Can we at least do that? And they thought, we'll fill it up and we'll get started here. Oh, they filled it up. And if you keep reading, they filled it up and then they emptied it, put it back out there, it filled up again. They'd empty it and then they put it out there again, and it'd fill up. And they'd empty it and they just kept doing that. And it just kept filling up and filling up and filling up and filling up to go in and prepare. They had so much money, they had so much gold, they were able to sacrifices back up and running and everything they needed, and everything's going great. Isn't that wonderful? Let's give a hand to Joash. Then, what does it say back in verse 2, chapter 24? And Joash did that which was right in the sight of the Lord. How many like that part? All the days of Jehoiada the priest. Why did it add that little phrase? Because Jehoiada was old. Very old. And he passed away. Let's jump to verse 15. But Jehoiada waxed old. See, I told you. I told you he was old. That's what he said. Waxed old. And was full of days when he died. 130 years old was he when he died. Yes, that's old back then too. No, we're not talking about the times of Methuselah. This is during the time of day. 130. Which again, do you see God's grace in this? God's grace in making sure Joash was protected to protect the line, making sure Jehoiada was there to help Joash all those years. He got to be 130 years old, but then he passed away. Verse 16, and they buried him in the city of David among the kings, because he had done good in Israel, both toward God and toward his house. That's a nice thing, isn't it? He got buried like a king. And what did Joash learn? This is the problem, isn't it? As long as he had his mentor, as long as he had the one to sit there and keep him straight, he was fine. But what happened? Verse 17, now after the death of Jehoiada came the princes of Judah and made obeisance to king. Then the king hearkened unto them. So all the princes come in and they start talking up Joash. You're wonderful. You're great. We will obey you. We will follow you. We got these great ideas on how to make things so much better here in Judah. And without Jehoiada there saying, hey guys, get out of here, he said, what? Okay. And what kind of wonderful things did they have in store? Verse 18. And they left the house of the Lord God of their fathers and served groves and idols, and wrath came upon Judah and Jerusalem for their trespass. Didn't take long. All it takes is some people say, hey, let's get back to that again. Let's do some groves. Let's do the idols. And they clearly left the house of the Lord, stopped going there, and did all that work, paid all that money, and then they just left it and went that way. Was God done with them? No, God's going to send prophets. Verse 19. Yet God sent prophets to them to bring them again unto the Lord, and they testified against them, but they would not give ear. We don't want to hear that. How stubborn, how hard can a heart get so fast?
Very hard.
Right? Back, look at verse 20. And the Spirit of God came upon Zechariah, the son of Jehoiada the priest. This would be like his brother growing up, right? Jehoiada was like his father. He took care of him and like this. And this is Zechariah, his son, which stood above the people and said unto them, thus saith God, why transgress you the commandments of the Lord, that ye cannot prosper? Because you have forsaken the Lord, he hath also forsaken you. Now again, who's this being written for? At the time, it's for them, but at the time the 2 Chronicles is being written, it's to who? If you want to prosper, if you want things to go well, you have to follow God, right? If you do not, you will end up punished like off in Babylon, right? You got to listen. You got to learn these things. And what was the response? Verse 21, and they conspired against Zechariah and stoned him with stones at the commandment of the king in the court of the house of the Lord. Is there anything good about that statement? It was at the commandment of the king done in the house of the Lord that they stoned God's prophet. How far they have fallen. And who is it? That's the son of his mentor, Jehoiada. Yeah. Thus Joash the king remembered not the kindness which Jehoiada his father had done to him, but slew his son. And when he died, he said, the Lord look upon it and require it. In other words, get him. God is not mocked. Whatever a man sows, that shall he also what? Reap. Is that what happened? Yeah. Verse 23, and it came to pass at the end of the year, the end of that year, that the host of Syria came up against him, and they came to Judah and Jerusalem. They destroyed all the princes of the people from among the people. Remember those guys who said we had a good idea? Let's go this way? They're now what? Dead. And sent all the spoil of them unto the king of Damascus. For the army of the Syrians came with a small company of men, a little tiny army. And the Lord delivered a very great host into their hand because they had forsaken the Lord God of their fathers. So they executed judgment against Joash. God likes to make a message, doesn't he? He didn't bring a massive army of Syria and a massive army of the Ammonites. And he didn't bring all of that. He sent a little group of Syrians to come in and absolutely destroy the army of Judah and to come in and ransack Jerusalem and the temple. To make a point. You've forsaken me. And what happened to Joash, verse 25? And when they were departed from him, for they left him in great diseases, his own servants conspired against him for the blood of the sons of Jehoiada the priest, and slew him on his bed, and Joash died. And they buried him in the city of David, but they buried him not in the sepulchre of the kings. His own people turned against him. Because they understood you don't kill a prophet. You don't kill the son of Jehoiada. You don't go this direction. Plus they saw what Syria had done and knew that God had forsaken them. So they get rid of Joash. All right? So the question, lesson learned? No. Joash didn't learn. And how many times is this like us? We start out well because there's somebody sitting there holding your hand, right? There's somebody who's a godly person who's making sure they're staying on top of it, making sure, correcting you when you're wrong, somebody you will listen to, somebody you respect. But when they go, how easy is it for the world just to kind of come in and say, hey, I got some good ideas. That's why we need people in our life who will what? Be good mentors to us. Teach us, and we need to stay in his word, and we need to stay close to him because it's so easy once we get out of that environment for the world to take over. And how bad did it get? Got bad fast, didn't it? So now Amaziah, his son takes over. Chapter 25. Amaziah was 25 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 29 years in Jerusalem, and his mother's name was Jehoaddan of Jerusalem. And he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord, but not with a perfect heart. And how important is the heart? You can do the right things for a lot of reasons, can't you? Personal gain, if I do the things God wants me to, then he'll protect me. He'll take care of me. He'll do this for me, or because I want to look good. I don't want to be embarrassed. I don't want to be killed like my dad. There are a lot of reasons you may do, but how does God want us to do it? With a what? In fact, this goes all the way back to the law, doesn't it? You shall love the Lord your God with all your, what's the first one again? Heart. 100%, but his was not perfect. So he did some good things and he did some bad things. Let's take a look at it. Some good things, verse 3 and 4. Now it came to pass when the kingdom was established to him that he slew his servants that had killed the king his father. Is that good? Well, it's justice, right? Isn't that one of the jobs of the king, is to do justice? But do you go overboard? Do you burn down his house, and his family, and his neighborhood, and you don't go Chicago style. What do? Verse 4. But he slew not their children, but did as it is written in the law in the book of Moses, where the Lord commanded, saying, the father shall not die for the children, neither shall the children die for the fathers, but every man shall die for his own sin. So he listened to the word of God. Did he exact justice? Yes, that's his job, but not out of hate, not out of retribution, not out of revenge, but just to fulfill the law, right? So he did. How many agree good? Then he had an idea. Yeah, I know. People get ideas. It's a bad thing. Let's see what his idea was. Verse 5. Moreover, Amaziah gathered Judah together and made them captains over thousands and captains over hundreds according to the houses of fathers throughout all Judah and Benjamin. And he numbered them for 20 years old and above and found them 300,000 choice men able to go forth to war that could handle spear and shield. All right, is that good? That's pretty good. 300,000 able-bodied people. Excellent. But he said, that's not enough. Who's on his side? God's on his side. What's enough? Syrians brought a little group of people and destroyed the place when God was on their side. What's the big deal? And he also, verse 6, he hired also 100,000 mighty men of valor out of Israel for 100 talents of silver. Paid 100 talents of silver to have 100,000 people come and help him. Did he learn a lesson? Who did such foolish things like making deals with Israel? Jehoshaphat, right? Which led to Jehoram, which led to Ahaziah, which led to Adaliah, which led is he learning? No, he's not. But we'll see what the response is. Verse 7. But there came a man of God to him, saying, O king, let not the army of Israel go with you. For the Lord is not with Israel, to wit, with all the children of Ephraim. But if thou wilt go, do it, be strong for the battle. God shall make thee fall before the enemy. For God hath power to help and to cast down. So God's here to help you. You don't need them. Do not use them. Now, the last prophet that went to a king of Judah, what happened to him? He got killed. Let's see if his son does a little better. Verse 9. And Amaziah said to the man of God, but what shall we do for the 100 talents that I have given to the army of Israel? And I think, remember what it said, his heart was not perfect? What's clearly something he cares a lot about? Money. but I already spent the money. What am I supposed to do? Just eat it? The prophet's going to say, yeah, just give them the money. But don't use them. If you use them, you'll lose. If you don't use them, you'll win. Because God needs to show that he's on your side and not on their side, right? And the man of God answered, the Lord is able to give thee much more than this. Is that true? Yeah, God can take care of it. Then Amaziah separated them to wit, the army that was come to him out of Ephraim to go home again. Wherefore their anger was greatly kindled against Judah, and they returned home in great anger. So he says 100,000 go on home, and they're like, "Argh." Why? Because where's their heart? I like to kill things. Yeah, I like the money, but I was getting ready to go to war. Right? And now they can't go to war. And you tell 100,000 men of war that they can't go to war, what do they end up doing? Just pillaged a bunch of places on the way home. Which again, though, whose fault is that? For even getting into an agreement with him. He shouldn't have done that. He didn't consult God. He didn't do, again, how easy of us not, how many times have kings of Judah gotten into trouble because they didn't consult God and just did whatever they thought was right? It's a problem, right? But at least he started bad, but did he do a good thing, actually doing the right thing? Yeah. He listened to the man of God, and he actually sent them home. Verse 11, and Amaziah strengthened himself and led forth his people and went to the valley of Salt and smote of the children of Seir 10,000. And other 10,000 left alive did the children of Judah carry away captive and brought them to the top of a rock and cast them down from the top of a rock that they were broken in pieces. These are rough times. So you kill 10,000, then 10,000 you tie up and cast off a cliff. Now, if you're the 9,000th, you got a good chance to survive. I'm just saying. Verse 13. But the soldiers of the army which Amaziah sent back, and they would not go with him to battle, fell from Samaria even unto Beth-horon, and smote 3,000 of them. Like, oh, I'll show you some fight. And they killed 3,000 people of Judah on their way home. Which reminds us what? Don't do that. Don't make these arrangements. Don't get in with the world, because it just ends up bad. They think different than we do, right? They have different priorities than we do, don't they? And you have to make sure you don't do that. So, he did good. He did bad, but then he turned it around. And after the battle, what did he decide to do? If your heart's not right with God, what possibly stupid thing could he do? You can't even guess now, can you? Verse 14, now it came to pass after that Amaziah was come from the slaughter of the Edomites, that he brought the gods of the children of Seir and set them up to be his gods, and bowed down himself before them and burned incense unto them. His heart was not right. When our heart's not right and settled on God, we end up doing stupid things. How stupid is it? Verse 15, wherefore the anger of the Lord was kindled against Amaziah, and he sent unto him a prophet, and said unto him, why hast thou sought after the gods of the people, which could not deliver their own people out of your hand? You go and destroy them, 10,000 slaughtered, 10,000 thrown off a cliff, and then you take their gods to worship? Did their gods do anything against your God? No. You're dumb. Verse 16, it came to pass, as he talked with him, that the king said unto him, art thou made of the king's counsel? Forbear, stop. Why should you not be smitten? Then the prophet forbare and said, I know that God hath determined to destroy us. You have done this, and has not hearkened unto my counsel. The first time he listened to the man of God, you're attacking me. You're saying I'm wrong. And he says, I'm going to kill you right now. And then to stop me, he's like, I'm out of here. I'm leaving. But remember, God will take care of you. And did he? Verse 18. And Joash, not that Joash. Joash, the king of Judah, is dead. Of this you must be certain. But there is another king, Joash, the son of Jehu, the king of Israel, sent to Amaziah, king of Judah, saying, the thistle that was in Lebanon sent to the cedar that was in Lebanon, saying, give thy daughter to my son to wife. And there passed by a wild beast that was in Lebanon and trode down the thistle. That is a weird looking thing. You know what he's saying? Because King Amaziah said, hey, king of Israel, let's fight. And king, by that little poem there, that little thing, is basically saying, you are nothing but a thistle. You can stand up and say you're something, 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 but you could be trampled by a beast, by an animal. Why would I even want to fight you? But they did. And how did it turn out? Verse 27 and 28. Now, let's jump to verses 23 and 24. And Joash, the king of Israel, took Amaziah, king of Judah, the son of Joash, the son of Jehoahaz, at Beth-shemesh, and brought him to Jerusalem, and brake down the wall of Jerusalem from the gate of Ephraim to the corner gate 400 cubits. So basically, after they defeated them, broke down the walls of Jerusalem in a huge section, and he took all the gold and the silver and all the vessels that were found in the house of God with Obed-Edom, and the treasure of the king's house, the hostages also, and returned to Samaria. You got to listen. God said what? You shouldn't have done that. Don't worship these other gods. And his answer was, you can't tell me what to do. It's like, well, you're going down. So he put it in his heart to fight Israel until Israel could win. And they come down and break down a huge section of the wall of Jerusalem, and then go into the temple and take everything. Everything that who put in there? Joash. Remember the big box? And brought all the treasures? All that is now what? Gone. Taken away by Israel. And what happened? Verse 27. Now after the time that Amaziah did turn away from following the Lord, They made a conspiracy against him in Jerusalem, and he fled to Lachish. But they sent to Lachish after him and slew him there. And they brought him upon horses and buried him with his fathers in the city of Judah. Both times, for Joash and Amaziah, how does it turn? He turns against God, and his own people turn against them. Now, how many see a little bright light there? You shouldn't be killing your king, but at least they seem to be doing it for a right reason. Because they're turning against the Lord. And they're leading to the destruction of the temple and the services. So, have they learned? Did Joash learn a lesson from those who went before him? No, he went right back to the same. As soon as Jehoiada was dead, he went right back to the same things his forefathers did. Did Amaziah learn? No. Went straight back because their heart was not right with the Lord. So, along comes who? Uzziah. Anybody want to guess if he's going to be good or bad? Come on. What do you think? Guy like Uzziah? Let's find out. Uzziah comes along, chapter 26. Then all the people of Judah took Uzziah, who was 16 years old, and made him king in the room of his father Amaziah. They got young people. He built Eloth and restored it to Judah. After that, the king slept with his fathers. 16 years old was Uzziah when he began to reign, and he reigned 52 years. That's a long time. His mother's name was Jechaliah of Jerusalem, and he did that which was right in the sight of the Lord according to all that his father Amaziah did. Did Amaziah do all right? No, but it's saying, hey, if he didn't learn from his father the good things. He did what was right, and he looked at his father and said the good things. What about the bad things? Verse 5, and he sought God in the days of Zechariah, who had understanding in the visions of God, and as long as he sought the Lord, God made him to prosper. So Uzziah did what was right. He learned from his father. How well? Well, we can go through it, but because of that, he had won every war. Every war he went out to, he went with the Lord went with him, and he won. Great buildings, structures, rebuilding Jerusalem, which had fallen down, making things right again, building cities and towers and things like that. A lot of building. He prospered, and he had a massive army of mighty men. All of this was good, right? What word up there makes you a little nervous? But what happened? Chapter 26, verse 16. And how's verse 16 start? But when he was strong, his heart was lifted up to his destruction. This is something we also have to be careful of, right? Joash did great as long as his mentor was there, but as soon as he was gone, he started listening to other people, listening to the world, right? Uzziah did great until everything was going right. And what happens to us when everything's going right? We start thinking what? Ego. Look what I have done. How many of you have ever tried to do a diet? Right? And you do really well for like a month. You're losing weight, doing great, and what's your first thought? I don't need to be on that diet anymore. I got this under control. Do we? No. That's why we needed the diet. Right? And that's the thing. You got to stay on top of it, and he did not. In fact, what does it say? His heart was what? Lifted up. For he transgressed against the Lord his God and went into the temple of the Lord to burn incense upon the altar of incense. What's wrong with that? Come on. King, he wants to do something nice for God. No. When your heart gets lifted up, you start doing things that aren't your what? Job. By the way, this goes all the way back to whose sin? Saul, all back to Saul, right? Who did the sacrifices that he wasn't supposed to do. His heart was lifted up, and he started thinking, well, I'm the king, I can do whatever I want to do, forgetting that who is the king of Israel, of Judah? God is. And what does God say? No, only the priests do that. They had that job to do, and he went and did it himself. So what happened? Verse 17, and Azariah the priest went in after him, and with him 80 priests of the Lord that were valiant men. So they saw him going in. How much is 80? 80. That's a lot, isn't it? 7 years ago, remember? Valiant priest soldiers brought him in. And they withstood Uzziah the king and said unto him, it appertaineth not unto thee, Uzziah, to burn incense unto the Lord, but to the priests, the sons of Aaron, that are consecrated to burn incense. Go out of the sanctuary, for you have trespassed. Neither shall it be for thine honor from the Lord. Priests are doing their job here, aren't they? Stand up right to the king. Say, you shall not pass. Do not do this, right? Not your job. And here comes the question, where is his heart? Does he listen? Does he go away? What's his problem? Pride. Then Uzziah was wroth, angry, and had a censer in his hand to burn incense. And while he was wroth with the priests, the leprosy even rose up in his forehead before the priests in the house of the Lord from beside the incense altar. So I always get this picture here of him just like gripping it and just getting redder and redder, like he's going to hit somebody with it. And all of a sudden what? From here, it just starts working its way down. Leprosy. Popping out everywhere. Everybody knows what leprosy is, right? A disease that eats away the skin and the joints and everything else. And it just started going. And Azariah, the chief priest, and all the priests looked upon him, and behold, he was leprous in his forehead, and they thrust him out from there. Yea, himself hasted to also go out because the Lord had smitten him. Even he was like, oh no. And he ran out because one thing you know is lepers cannot get into can't be in there, right? And he's like, I gotta get out of here. Verse 21, Uzziah the king was a leper until the day of his death, and dwelt in a several house, being a leper. For he was cut off from the house of the Lord, and Jotham his son was over the king's house, judging the people of the land. And you think about that. He reigned for how long? 52 years. But a lot of it was as a leper in a separate house, really just being more of a figurehead than anything else, while his son ran the day-to-day things, and he could not go to the house of the Lord anymore. Learn your lesson? You got to learn these lessons. And this is to captives. Hey, when you get back to Judah, when you get back to Jerusalem, when you rebuild the temple, which is one of their jobs, when you rebuild the walls, when you get there, learn from these guys, right? Don't let the pride fill your heart. Listen to those who have good godly advice. Do not align yourself with other peoples or follow other gods. You got to do these things. And when God sends a prophet, what do you got to do? Listen to them. Right? And how does that turn out, by the way? We know they go back. How do they do? Not well. They forget these things. They forget these lessons, right? That's why by the time Jesus comes, how are the leaders doing? Not well. Following a lot of the same prideful, selfish things that those before him had done, right? It's the same things that Isaiah warned them about where they were doing it under Jesus. Anybody know when Isaiah was a prophet? This is the time period. And Isaiah, the whole time, is one of those prophets sitting there saying, hey, guys, get your act together, or you'll be going off into captivity, right? And they don't. Little good every once in a while. Every once in a while they'll listen. But how much does God want us to listen? 100%. Every time. And having a heart that is right with him is the key, isn't it? So, all right. So, how are things looking in Judah? Not as bad as back here at Annandale times, but still, we got some problems going on, don't we? How many are happy to know they're going to turn it around? And then it's going to get worse. And then they're going to turn it around. And then it's going to get worse. We're getting close to the end, though. And we got to learn from all these lessons, right? And not let these things come into our life and trip us up, right? Let's pray.